Many of us know this word communion as tied and tethered to the Christian ritual of the Eucharist. And it might seem strange that we use this word to describe the flower ceremony we practice as Unitarian Universalists. In fact, there are debates about this. Not surprisingly, as some wonder if this word, so linked to Christianity, is really the right word to describe this glorious ritual of flowers, community, and hope. I think it's worth considering when I look at the Latin root of this word. It's communio, which is all about community, and it holds a sentiment of mutual participation or shared participation of an event or an experience. To commune is to have an encounter inside a relationship, to share an experience, an exchange of significance. Perhaps, thinking theologically, it is where we realize our hidden cry for harmony with the infinite, where we drink at the pond of life and discover how to live. The annual flower communion brings us together yearly to rejoice in the beauty of our faith as it holds each of us uniquely and wonderfully made in a community we freely choose, an affirmation of the unity of our faith and the presence of the beautiful diversity among us. Flower communion is also a celebration of freedom. We remember today that flower communion was born in the wake of the First World War, a time of great human and ecological loss, with grief ripe and full in people's lives. British poet Charlotte Mew wrote in her poem June 1915, quote, "What's little June to a great broken world with eyes gone dim from too much looking on the face of grief, the face of dread." The grief and dread didn't end at the end of the war in 1918, but lingered in the lives of those who were changed by it. And we know it wouldn't be long until the face of dread would return to Europe and to the world, just as the specter of World War I began to fade. Returning to the newly minted Czechoslovakia in 1921, Norbert Čapek and his wife established the Unitaria Congregation of Prague, a congregation that would grow to some 3,000 members. Imagine that. Reverend Čapek was deeply committed to the promise of Unitarianism, of bringing people together with a common cause of harmony with the divine and with the great questions of his time, and he was very much committed to progressive education. When offered an opportunity to return to the United States as Nazism was on the march, Reverend Čapek declined and continued to serve his parish until his arrest in 1941 by the Gestapo. He was arrested along with his daughter for listening to foreign broadcasts and for the crime of high treason. His sermons and his writings were cited as a threat to the Nazi enterprise. Richard Henry, who wrote the only biography on Norbert Čapek, writes in the Dictionary of Unitarian and Universalist Biography, quote, "Two separate trials were held, the first at Pangratz prison soon after their arrest, the second an appeal of the original decision at Dresden in April 1942. The appeals court found Čapek innocent of the treason charge, recommending that, given his age, he was nearly 70 at the time, the year between his arrest and the appeals trial could be counted towards his jail time. The Gestapo, ignoring the court's recommendation, nonetheless sent Čapek to Dachau, Zora, Čapek's daughter, to a forced labor camp in Germany. Čapek's name appears among prisoners sent on an invalid transport on October 12, 1942, to Hartheim Castle near Linz, Austria, where he died of poison gas, end quote. It's chilling to recount this story today and to notice the similarities between 1941 Nazi Germany and what we are encountering in the United States. The constant abuses of authoritarian power by the state and the erosion of constitutional freedoms. Timothy Snyder, the author of the book On Tyranny, in his other book, On Freedom, explores a broad and wide conversation about the historical, philosophical, and lived realities of freedom as an aspiration and a cultural artifact. As part of his framing, he notices that there is a dynamic tension between the negative freedom of a freedom from, such as freedom from violence, or the freedom from wrongful imprisonment in the absence of due process, and a generative freedom to, which we might notice as the freedom to create, the freedom to pursue happiness, the freedom to be ourselves, the freedom to disagree and dissent, the freedom to live in community, the freedom to practice the religion of our choice, or the freedom to co-create the terms of collective liberty and liberation. Thinking theologically with Snyder, I'm inclined to interpret his generative freedom to insight as constructivist, which is to say that it's co-creative and communal, an encounter of significance, a place where we gather to hear our collective cry, our longing to harmonize with the infinite, a place to commune. In the quest for freedom, we discover once again the human spirit, the buds of life and hope that continue to push through the hard earth against the odds so that the quest for freedom to thrive and flourish can continue. We notice in the flowers and the buds that we share at this flower communion an unstoppable impulse at work in the world. In the familiar words of Albert Camus, quote, "In the midst of winter, I found within me an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there is something stronger, something better pushing right back." Flower communion is a reminder that there is an invincible summer being born among us right here, right now. As we tenderly hold these precious flowers in our hand, we remember Reverend Norbert's life, his ministry of hope and his love of freedom, the freedom to search for truth and meaning, the freedom to build communities of care and faith, and the freedom to resist tyranny. My wish today is that Reverend Norbert's memory be a blessing upon us. His story a reminder that we, Unitarian Universalists, are a people of purpose and conviction, that we hold a longing for harmony with the infinite in one hand, and we inherit a tradition that fights for freedom in the other. May it be so, and blessed be. I know Reverend Norbert is here with us this morning.